In 1960, accomplished British director Michael Powell directed his infamous thriller horror Peeping Tom. It was Powell's first venture into the genre of horror. It is also the film credited for prematurely ending Powell's film career in Britain, forcing Powell to find work elsewhere. Peeping Tom's story follows young cameraman, Mark Lewis, played by Carl Bohm. Mark was abused by his psychologist father as a child by being forced to participate in his father's experiments dealing with fear. Mark, now grown and a handsome yet shy young man, has developed a strange and unnatural hobby that he hides from those around him. He enjoys filming women as he murders them violently. To add insult to murder, the women are forced to watch themselves as they slowly die by a mirror attached onto his murder device. Mark then goes home and watches the murders over and over again as he creates his documentary on fear. I don't think of it as a horror film at all. I tried to go beyond the ordinary horror film of unexplained monster, and instead show why one human being should behave in this extraordinary way. It's a story of a human being first and foremost.
Akin to madness.
The critical reception to Peeping Tom was universally poor, to say the least. Critics all agreed to hate the film, some even walked out of the screening refusing to watch the film in its entirety. The most quoted review and the one that best encapsulates the general attitude towards the film is possibly that of Derek Hill, film critic for the Tribune. The only really satisfactory way to dispose of Peeping Tom would be to shovel it up and flush it swiftly down the nearest sewer. Even then the stench would remain.
It's fear. So I did something very simple. Very simple.
Now, today's audiences are a bit more open-minded and the tides have changed in favor of Peeping Tom. Martin Scorsese, possibly Peeping Tom's most famous advocate, has made it his mission to seeing that Peeping Tom gets a second chance at life. In 1978, Scorsese went so far as to fund a screening of Peeping Tom at the New York Film Festival, introducing Peeping Tom to a brand new audience, a much more accepting one. Now 50 years later, the film is considered a masterpiece of British cinema and one of the greatest horror movies ever made. Many of the critics that early on equated the film to nothing more than trash on screen have since changed their opinions. Delise Powell, of the Sunday Times, a female critic that took particular offense to the film at its opening and helped spearhead an attack on Peeping Tom, claiming it to be essentially vicious, has since changed her opinion.
I am convinced that it is a masterpiece. If in some afterlife conversation is permitted, I shall think it my duty to seek out Michael Powell and apologize.
One has to wonder why the film was received so poorly upon its initial release. Why did the critics and audiences alike hate the film so much and practically excommunicate Michael Powell from Britain?
The reaction to the film is really puzzling. It depends on the society at the time and what is allowed to be said or what is allowed to be expressed, I should say. Because he expressed, I think, the danger of filmmaking and a very, very unhealthy sense of the picture. The sense that just the feel of the trashy store with and that incredible photographer studio. Everything had a kind of very, very forbidden feel about it. They didn't want to see that on a big screen in Eastman color, which, by the way, enhanced it.
Yeah.
The Eastman color is very powerful and very strong and very lurid and kind of violent in a way. See, the other problem with the film at the time probably was that you have this serial killer, basically, horrible. Yet he's presented as someone who touches you in a way. From the very beginning, something about his eyes and his quietness, especially when he photographs those models. It's a kind of uneasy empathy with this person.
Come on, love, don't be shy.
And I think it shocked people Many critics really, as you know, reacted violently against it because they don't want those parts of themselves touched.
The central theme underlining the film is voyeurism, as the title very openly suggests. Mark commits his murders as the audience observes from his point of view. So, the real question then becomes, who is the real voyeur, Mark or the audience? Willing or unwilling, the audience become voyeurs, and it would seem that made audiences of the time very uncomfortable, and rightfully so. It is the use of this point of view style of filming that the slasher films would later come borrow to great effect.